Welcome to the Weather Guru live podcast for the latest on Tropical Storm Debby here as of 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tropical Storm Debby is making a beeline toward the Florida Big Bend region, and it has shifted a little more west of due north right now. Winds currently sustained at 70 miles an hour, and that's the latest advisory from the National Hurricane Center. So the winds have come up by 5 miles an hour, so we can expect by the 11 p.m. advisory tonight that it'll be a hurricane. If the current trends continue. Pressure is down to 992 millibars, and its movement is slowed down to 1 mile north at 12 miles an hour. So it was at 13, now it's down to 12. So movement is slowing down with Debby as it tries to consolidate itself here. Very good, strong convection now on all corridors, and it appears that dry air that it was fighting so heavily earlier during the day is weakening as some more convective bands are wrapping around the western side of this thing. So we can expect to see an eye also pop out probably tomorrow morning too, as well as it makes its approach into the Big Bend area, anywhere between Osceola River and Horseshoe Bay Beach, Florida. And Perry, Florida looks to be in the center of this right front quadrant here. And Taylor County, they're going to get a brunt of it. And Tallahassee is on the western end, so they will get a lot of showers and some gusty winds, but nothing up to hurricane force. But the majority of the rain is going to be back from I-10, that I-10 corridor from Perry, Lake City, Live Oak, Jacksonville, up into Georgia, Brunswick, Jekyll Island, Savannah, all those areas. And then, of course, the Carolinas will be into play later on into Monday night. So this is going to be a slow mover. Debby is forecasted to be a slow mover. Once it comes inland, it's going to basically stall and kind of meander about. It's still uncertain whether or not it's going to reemerge over in the Atlantic side or stay on land. A part of the circulation we can have a number of scenarios. A part of the circulation could remain offshore, half of it onshore, or it could be all of it onshore and just kind of stall out and meander around South Carolina and Georgia for a while, providing copious amounts of rain, obviously. So there's a lot of scenarios, but in the meantime, we're looking forward to this landfall here. It should be a Category 1, a strong Category 1. It winds possibly up to 90 miles an hour. It'll quickly dissipate into tropical storm status once it gets inland here shortly after Monday. Now, looking at the other disturbance, the disturbance is growing here, but it's still about 150 miles, 200 miles southeast of Barbados, so we'll worry about that later. It has much time to develop, but right now we have Debby, and right now Debby is forecasted to bring some significant surge for that area. 6 to 10 feet of surge is going to come in here, anywhere from Horseshoe Bay Beach, Cedar Key, over towards Apalachicola. So you got to be careful with that surge in the right front quadrant, and you can see tropical storm force winds are hitting this coastline here from about just to the north of Punta Gorda and Venice, Florida, up through the Tampa Bay, the mouth of Tampa Bay, all the way up through Spring Hill and Crystal River, possibly in all these areas here. Inland are getting hit here just to the west of I-75 here in Hernando and Citrus counties, and then heading north here, they're getting tropical storm force winds or tropical storm force gusts in that yellow-orange outlining there. So that's what's going on. On the eastern side, you're still getting bands, maybe in Fort Lauderdale and Miami and Orlando, but they're just general, garden variety rain showers not associated with the main circulation. So right now, we have that hurricane forecast to make landfall sometime Monday afternoon. This could be anywhere from 1 p.m. all the way up to 3 p.m. on Monday. And then it'll quickly weaken to a tropical storm as it comes in here. And you can see it, once again, it looks very better organized here, and it will be a hurricane. Some people have said Category 2. I don't think it's going to quite make that. I agree with the Hurricane Center. It's going to be around an 85 to 90 mile an hour strong Category 1 storm. It just doesn't have enough time before it hits the coast here. So it's showing great organization. Pressure's down to 992 millibars. Right now, it's still about 100 miles west of Tampa or 90 miles southwest of Cedar Key, Florida. And all of the watches and warnings remain the same. So the only thing that has changed from this advisory has been the strengthening of the storm. And also they added the tropical storm warnings in blue here for the Georgia coastline from extending down just south of Jacksonville from Atlantic Beach all the way up to Savannah, Georgia. And then they extended a tropical storm watch now in yellow for the low country of South Carolina, starting out there in, from Beaufort, Charleston, Hilton Head Island, all the way up through North Myrtle Beach, and Charleston and those areas on the coast there, Folly Beach, Kiawah Island, all those beaches out there. So that's been the changes, and there's still great uncertainty, of course, from Tuesday afternoon through Friday, it's still great uncertainty in all the models, so nobody knows if it's going to stall out over land or if it's going to go. It's pumping up against a stationary boundary up here, so nobody knows whether or not it's going to go back out to sea or back in here. But the main news is going to be is that this is going to be a rainmaker, unlike Idalia, which had a lot of wind with it when it came across Perry, Florida, and these areas up in Taylor County and Dixie County and up toward I-10 area. Or Hurricane Michael, which came in inland and was a Category 3 and provided those winds up here to the west of Tallahassee. Last time we had that big Category 5 that came in through Mexico Beach, and it's not one of those scenarios. This is more of a tropical rainmaker, okay? And once the hurricane forms that eye, we don't expect hurricane force winds to be extended out very far from the center. So you're talking maybe 10 to 15 miles out, nautical miles out from the center on either side, give or take. And so because of that, it's just going to be, in kind of a name only. It's going to be probably damage, yes, of course, but this is a lesser populated area of Florida, the Big Bend coastline up here, the Nature Coast. And you can see the sea surface temperatures are pretty high, 29 degrees Celsius, 31 degrees Celsius closer to the coast. So that gives it that opportunity for rapid intensification. Looking at the wind shear maps here, you can see that it's in a neutral zone right now, and then it gets in an unfavorable wind shear environment, but it'll be able to overcome this because it's closer to the continental shelf and it's closer to landfall, so it'll overcome that as it's consolidating. It wouldn't be wrapping in so much dry air or wind shear as it gets closer to the coast, and you can see that happening right now. It's starting to intensify, and of course it'll be a strong Category 1 wind, somewhere around 85 to 90 miles an hour sustained, and then it'll quickly weaken. And now, so the counties that really need to worry about the flooding is going to be those counties east here. So we're talking about Suwannee County, and then over toward Jacksonville counties over here, Nassau, Baker County, all those counties, Clay County, and then up into Georgia. I-95 corridor is going to be very treacherous here. If you're doing any travel between Jacksonville and Savannah, you might want to postpone that until at least Tuesday afternoon or Wednesday, because it's going to be treacherous coming through Jacksonville, Savannah, Brunswick, Jessup, any of those areas, even inland towards I-75. You want to postpone your travels close to that area. You can see the GFS model shows it right here as a 992 millibar storm, and then as we progress it, you can see it does make its way inland, and it comes in, it consolidates to a 985 storm. So that means that it could possibly reach a Category 2 just before making landfall, which is at 96 or 95 miles an hour, I believe it is. And so it comes in, and this GFS model shows it coming in, and then it shows it going through southern Georgia. It takes almost a whole day to get through Georgia, and it's going to be the low pressure center somewhere around just south of 84 in Jessup, Georgia there. And then according to the GFS, and then it kind of does a loop-de-loop. Watch, the GFS model has it coming. Watch this again. The GFS model has it dipping back down towards off the coast of Jacksonville and Ferdinand Beach there, and then it comes back up into. It re-strengthens and it comes back up into the Savannah, Georgia area again. It comes back up and then it loops around 3 or 4 times around the Big Bend, around west of Tallahassee and Marietta and Bainbridge and Seminole County, Georgia there, and Blakely, and then it wraps around again. And so it just kind of the GFS model has it stalling out now around the Florida, Georgia, Big Bend area, and then it makes another loop again as the steering currents have lost itself here, and then it loops around southern Georgia before finally getting up into the Carolinas here. This is by Tuesday afternoon or Tuesday night, getting up around Wilmington, Jacksonville, North Carolina area, and North Myrtle Beach, and bringing heavy rain to the Outer Banks, and then it goes out to sea. And so this is interesting. On this latest model run up the GFS, they have it. Let's run that again for you here. The GFS model has Debby becoming a Category 2, around 95 miles an hour wind sustained as it makes landfall here, somewhere between somewhere between Horseshoe Bay Beach and Cedar Key, or just north of Cedar Key. It makes that landfall to the west here. It looks like closer to Apalachicola, Shoptoppy area, and then it comes in. And that still puts Tallahassee on the western side of this cone, but it will be stronger because that puts Tallahassee on the western, closer to the western eye wall, quote unquote. So they'll get strong winds and rain, and then into southern Georgia there, anywhere from Valdosta, I-75, Lake Park, back towards the Thomasville, places like that. And then it comes into southern Georgia. It takes all day, and it stays all day Monday and Tuesday in Georgia, in southern Georgia there. There's meandering, providing copious amounts of rainfall. And you got this onshore flow coming into, now watch this here. This is the GFS model on Wednesday. You still have a big onshore flow coming in South Carolina, North Carolina. Look at all that rain. So you can easily get 10 to 20 inches of rain coming into all these areas, even inland, up toward the I-26 corridor, Hanahan, and up towards Holly Hill, and all those areas up toward the I-26, I-95 junction, Orangeburg, Dillon, South South Carolina, up toward North Carolina, Wilmington, in those areas out toward the Outer Banks, Radon, and Avon. All those areas are going to get heavy rain that's going to continue on this Wednesday. And then look, the GFS model has another still looping around here and stalling out and looping around because the steering currents are gone even through Thursday. So we could have a multi-day rain event lasting, according to the GFS model here, lasting all the way through Friday. And that includes everybody in this region from the Big Bend all the way up, the 4 states all the way up here. And you can see it finally, what's going to kick it out here is it's going to go out to sea here close to Monday or Tuesday. So this is going to be a very interesting thing here. This is what the GFS model is showing us here. That's just one model, right? Now the models don't necessarily agree on what's going to happen, but it's pretty clear that this thing is east side loaded, and it's going to provide a lot of rain here. If I put it in motion one more time here, you can see it consolidating that big blow up of convection around the center, and so it's definitely on its way to being a hurricane before 11 p.m. on the next advisory. It'll be at 75 miles an hour, probably a minimum hurricane, category 1, and then of course it'll strengthen to that category 2, somewhere between 85 and 95 miles an hour, possibly as we get toward the morning hours, a 5 a.m. advisory or 8 a.m. advisory. It'll be just barely making it to that status before making an official landfall, if everything goes according to plan here and it doesn't slow down even further. But right now, the two things I want to get in the view is that it's slowing down, the wind shear is lessening, and that dry air that apparently has been suffocating this thing on the western side is apparently starting to lax up a bit, because there is a little bit more convection here, as you can see, on the western side, the western flank of this storm. And now the southern side it appears to be ingesting more dry air on that southern side there. As you can see, some chopped bands here, feeder bands being chopped up here. Right now, heaviest rain right now is falling over the Tampa Bay region. So if you're in that Tarpon Springs, St. Petersburg, they've been having the highest wind gusts in terms of wind gusts. St. Petersburg, Pinellas County, downtown Tampa, watch out South Tampa, down there by MacDill Air Force Base. That floods out a lot. I haven't had any reports of them flooding, any flooding results of that, so that's good news. Bradenton, Sarasota has gotten a lot of rain down here. Is still here. Venice, Osprey, down here, of course, inland towards just right by the spine of I-75, just to the west there, anywhere from Ocala up to Gainesville. There have been some explosive showers there. High Springs, Alachua County, some showers down south here as well. And then we have this explosive band of convection just to the east of Cape Canaveral here. So Cape Canaveral, Melbourne Beach, heading down I-95 there, Indianola, be careful down there. And then, of course, you have that convective band right there just south of West Palm Beach there, West Palm Beach and Broward County, getting some showers down there. And the Keys are just getting light, moderate rain now in the south southerly breeze there. So that's what we have going on with Debby. Once again, Debby is a 70-mile-an-hour tropical storm. It's forecasted to become a hurricane by 11 p.m. tonight, which I believe that next advisory is coming out, and I believe they'll go ahead and bump this up to a hurricane. You see that explosive convection in the center, and Debby is forecasted to make that landfall Monday afternoon, sometime between noon and 2 p.m. on Monday, if it maintains the same speed. The speed has slowed down and the movement has shifted northward now, north at 12 miles an hour. That's also a change. It's moving due north now, straight up into that continental shelf. And so that'll put landfall just to the east of Apalachicola, somewhere in between that Taylor County, Perry, Taylor County coastline, or possibly Taylor County, Jefferson County, and those counties, that coastline there, that forgotten coastline there, a nature coast or the forgotten coast, they call it. That will be coming in there, right in there like that, sometime tomorrow afternoon, somewhere between 12 and 2 p.m. according to this timeline, when it's going to make landfall right in the Big Bend region and then make its way in. So the main impacts from this is obviously going to be the flooding rains, and it's going to be the storm surge here. As you can just see, flooding rains here in that red, that's a foot of rain here just to the east of Tallahassee on that I-10 corridor. So anywhere north of Lake City, Hamilton County there, Jennings, Lake Park, heading towards Jessup, Brunswick, Savannah, the Air Force base, the Army base, Hinesville, Georgia, all those areas up there, Pooler, Georgia, outside of Savannah, and then into Hilton Head, Beaufort, Ridgeland, Hardyville, heading up towards Charleston, North Charleston. All those areas are going to be affected. Cameron, Holly Hill, all those areas are going to be affected. And into North Carolina, Wilmington, Jacksonville, North Carolina, on the lesser sense. And then, of course, you get into the Outer Banks, it starts to lessen up a bit, but you're still getting a lot of rain in that yellow, anywhere between 4 to 6 inches. So the Outer Banks need to watch this. Everybody in this red and dark red is going to be very careful, because the system is going to be looping around. It doesn't have steering currents, and nobody is sure if it's going to be on land or offshore, or half and half, or what's going to happen with it once the landfall takes place. But Georgia is going to take up a majority. Georgia and that low country of South Carolina is going to take up a majority of the rain, just by virtue of the fact of the circulation coming in the way it's coming in at an angle across this little convex or concave coastline here. That's kind of shallow water. It's going to be coming in like that, and so that means all the water is going to be piling onshore, or at least initially on the Georgia coastline there. So if you're coming through I-95, you might want to cancel your plans tomorrow, obviously. If you're coming through those areas just north of Jacksonville, once again coming out of St. Mary's, Brunswick, Jekyll Island, Tybee Island, Riceboro, Pembroke, Savannah, all those areas, and then into South Carolina. 95 once again is going to be a mess. You don't want to be out on the roads tomorrow at all, or even in Tuesday. From Savannah to Charleston, that stretch is going to be, even on I-26, you don't want to be fooling around with this coming out of Holly Hill, Cameron, all those areas, Hanahan. You don't be fooling around in any of those areas, because it's going to be heavy rainfall. Flooding is going to be possible, because this is a low country area, low elevation area. Then you had this rain here coming from the Midlands. They're going to be running down these creeks and streams. Are going to be elevated up here, because you still got 4 to 6 inches up here in this yellow. So that all the creeks and streams from these creeks and streams and rivers are going to be running down from the Midlands down to the low country. A couple of days later, by Thursday or Friday, it's going to be elevated here. And so it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen here, especially in this area up here in North Carolina too, with Lumberton, North Carolina, all these areas in orange. We're going to see how the Lumber River handles, and the Neuse River down here, all that. We're going to see how that handles the 8 inches possibly of rain that's going to be coming through this area here on I-95. So we're going to be very interested to see what they do with the roads come Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday on that situation. But that's why the West Water Service has issued this, because flash flooding potential is pretty high. It's high. It's at least a 70% chance here in purple, as you can see in that stripe. So nobody knows exactly who's going to get the bullseye and the most rain and all that. But we can tell you is that this is going to be a multi-day rain event for the southeast, most of the southeast, the Carolinas, Georgia, and that panhandle of Florida. That's where the most of the rain is going to be at, unfortunately. And so the panhandle, we're not too worried about that. I think they can handle. We've had storms that gave us 4 to 6 or 10 inches. Shouldn't be too bad of flooding there. They have some hills and some alluvial plains and swampland in that area, the Swanee River Basin and that thing. So I'm not really worried about the panhandle too much. But South Georgia and the low country of South Carolina, definitely you want to prepare, get those sandbags ready, because it's going to be a multi-day event regardless of where this system ends up on any of these models. And you can see the wind history here, ladies and gentlemen. The wind history here is showing that we just had tropical storm force winds sustained today from, like, let's say from Port Charlotte, Punta Gorda, Venice Beach, Santa Barbara Island, up through Bradenton, the mouth of Tampa Bay, into St. Petersburg. Had the most impressive winds, I think, at the airport. They had sustained winds around 40, gusting to 50 or 60 for a time, and then it kind of eased off. Tarpon Springs, Spring Hill, and then up that way. But we haven't had anything east of I-75, or even up to approaching I-75 in Wildwater, Ocala, Orlando. None of you guys have gotten at least sustained tropical storm force winds. Maybe in a few of these storms here, we had a few tornado warnings down in Hardee County, Arcadia, and Frostproof in those areas, but it wasn't nothing sustained. So that's great news. The tornado threat remains low right now, and so that's great news. We haven't had anything, reports of any tornado spin-ups on that eastern side. Considering that this storm is eastern loaded here, that's a pretty sweet deal that we haven't had anything like that happen right now. And that has to do with these bands. These bands, as you can see, these convective bands are not all stacked. They're not. It's trying to get vertically stacked now, but the bands in the morning that we had seen in the morning are not all stacked. And so with Debby, that you typically get that with the system. It's been a weird system. It hasn't been. It's been very Idalia-like, but not Idalia-like, because Idalia had stacked, vertically stacked, and it had a clear eye, and it came in at an angle too, like this. But Idalia came in with much more wind power, and it also didn't have to fight this much dry air on the western side or the wind shear. I'm not sure where that's coming from either. And it just looks as if on the satellite presentation, at first it was on the western side, now it's fought that off. Now it's the dry air is convecting around the southern side here, and you just don't know exactly where that's coming from. But in any event, the system is going to be coming into the Big Bend area as a Category 1, strong Category 1, possibly a borderline Category 2, depending on how the dynamics go. But it doesn't have much time. It's already less than maybe about 150 miles or so to go before it runs into some type of coastline, regardless of where it makes landfall. And then that's the map right here, as you can see. So I just wanted to give you that update. I expect that the 11 p.m. advisory coming out here, that this will be upgraded to a Hurricane Debby, and I expect the pressure to drop down to 990 or 989 or something like that. And then I expect the movement to slow down to another 1 mile per hour, probably north at 10 miles per hour or something like that. So it's going to be slow slowing, strengthening, and then coming in, like that. But like I said, the good news is the hurricane force winds are going to be a very small portion of this storm. As you can see, the tropical storm force winds extend out. Let's take a look at that while I'm here. Tropical storm force winds extend out. Let me go back to the public advisory here. I want to see what it says here. Tropical storm force winds extend out maybe 100 something miles, 150. I believe it is 140 miles. There we go. 140 miles or 220 kilometers from the center. Okay, so you can expect the hurricane force winds, if it does become a hurricane, they extend out maybe 10 to 20 miles from the center. I don't think it's going to be a huge amount of hurricane force winds, but the pressure is going to drop. So that's what we can expect at the 11 p.m. advisory here for this system. And I'll come back later on tomorrow. Not tomorrow. Yeah, later on tomorrow morning when it's a hurricane, and bring you some more updates. So thank you for listening with the Weather Guru. Please be sure to subscribe for the latest, and be safe if you're in Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, and part of lower North Carolina. And I'll see you tomorrow when the system gets ready to make this landfall here later on tomorrow at between noon and 2 p.m. on Monday. Thank you for listening.